Hi, this is Joan, and this is the second video dealing with understanding music for choirs and choir directors. So in the previous video, I started talking about digging a little bit into music theory to get more of an understanding of what it is that we do as choirs. So this video is where we start digging in, and we'll take it slowly. So we're going to start off talking about scales and scale tones. And the reason we want to get familiar with stuff about scales is because it helps us understand how harmonies are built. When different scale tones are played together or sung together at the same time, that makes chords. And when your choir sings their parts together, they're making chords. So understanding what kind of chords you're trying to make can help you as you progress into more complex music. But we're going to start with very familiar music with the basics. And in this video, we're just going to talk about melodies. We'll talk about harmonies next time. So music is made up of different tones, different notes. This is one tone, la, and another one, la, la. Each tone has a name. And if you look at a keyboard, you'll see how a keyboard groups all of those notes and tones into octaves. I'm going to get my keyboard. Let's see. And you can see the keyboard and how the notes are grouped. You have the names for each note, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and then you're back at C again. So from here, from this C up to the B, that's one octave, and all the white notes have the names, the letter names, and the black notes have their own names, like this note between the C and the D, that black note in between them, you can call it a C sharp, or shows over here, you can call it a D flat, either one. So every note has a name, and they're grouped into octaves. And when you write music, you can use any of the notes that you want out of those notes on the keyboard. There are 12 notes that make up an octave. If you count them, the A, B, C, D, E, F, and G are 7 notes. And then there are 5 black notes in between some of those, and it makes up 12 different notes that are a part of the octave, and you can use any of those notes to make a melody, to make a tune. Now, if you just take all of those notes and throw them together, the melody is going to sound random and confusing, and it won't feel like it's going anywhere. So for music to have a feeling of order to it and meaning to it, songwriters and composers will pick one note that will be the foundation of the tune, and everything else is built around that and leading back to it. And that note is the key note. So for example, if they pick the note G to be the key note, then the song is in the key of G. And everything else that happens in the melody is based on how it relates to that G note and where it takes you. It takes you on a little journey. The melody takes you somewhere, and then it leads you back home to the key note. The other notes that a composer will use to make a melody come from whatever scale that the songwriter decides to use. A scale is a set of notes out of the octave that are used to make a melody. Usually your melody is not going to use all 12 notes that are in the octave. It'll take certain ones and use those, and using those certain notes in that scale give the melody a kind of a certain feeling. Could be a happy feeling or a melancholy feeling, a dramatic feeling, based on which notes you pick from the octave to use those to build your melody. So to understand a little more about keys and scales, I've got my keyboard, and I'm going to play part of a hymn, and we'll see how the different notes are used and how they move through the melody and move back toward the keynote, and how it sounds, the impressions that come from using the scale notes. So the hymn is Leaning on the Everlasting Arms. I'm playing it in the key of E flat. So here goes. What a fellowship, what a joy divine. Now when you hear that line, what a fellowship, what a joy divine, it doesn't sound like the tune has come all the way finished yet. It feels like it's still going somewhere and it has someplace still to go. Next part. Leaning on the everlasting arms. Still doesn't feel finished. It sounds like it's still hanging. Everlasting arms. Next line. What a blessedness, what a peace is mine, leaning on the everlasting arms. When you get to that last line, everlasting arms, you can tell that it's gotten all the way to the close of that musical phrase, and it's finished. It lands on that E flat, that's the keynote, and when you get there you have that sound of resolution. So, Leaning on the Everlasting Arms is written using a major scale, and we did it in E flat, so it was an E flat major scale. The notes in the E flat major scale are E flat, F, G, A flat, B flat, C, D, and then you're on another E flat and you're in the next octave. So those notes that are in the scale can also be called by numbers. So the keynote, which is E flat right now, that's number 1. 1. And the F, the next note in the scale, is number 2. 2. 3. G is 3. 4. A flat is 4. 5. B flat is 5. 6. C is 6. 7. D is 7. And then 1. When you get back to the next E flat, then you're at 1 again. And those numbers are called scale tones. So in the major scale, there are 7 scale tones, 1 through 7, and then you're back to 1 again. So if we look at the tune for Leaning on the Everlasting Arms that we just played, we can assign the scale tone numbers to every note in that tune we played. So that would be 3, 3, 3, 2, 1, 2, 2, 2, 1, 6, 5, 1, 1, 5, 1, 2, 3, 3, 2. And then the next phrase, 3, 3, 3, 2, 1, 2, 2, 2, 1, 6, 5, 1, 1, 5, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1. So those are the scale tones that make that tune, Leaning on the Everlasting Arms. Once we know the scale tones that make the tune, we can put the song in any other key and we know what notes that we're going to play or sing. So we had done it in E flat major. We can put it in another key. We can put it in D major if we know the notes in the D major scale. And I'll tell you, for now, I'll tell you the notes in the D major scale are D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D. So those are the notes 1 through 7 for the D major scale. So we can use those same scale tone numbers that we used in E flat, assign them to the D major scale, and play the tune for Leaning on the Everlasting Arms in D. So in the key of D, D is 1, E is 2, F sharp is 3, and so forth. C sharp is 7, and that's the last note in the scale, and then D, we're back to 1 again. So playing Leaning on the Everlasting Arms in D, we would use those same scale tones. Starts on a 3, the tune starts on a 3, which now is F sharp. So now when we do 3, 3, 3, 2, 1, that's F sharp, F sharp, F sharp, E, D. 2, 2, 2, 1, 6. The same scale tones, but with the notes for the D major scale, so the tune sounds the same, just in a different key. And we can play the tune, sing the tune in any key that we want, and it'll sound like the same tune. We'll recognize the tune even though it's in a different key, because it uses the same scale tones that have the same relationships to each other. So all the notes that we played in that hymn come from the major scale. Even though there are 12 notes in every octave, like we said, the writer of this tune only drew from those 7 notes that are in the major scale. In fact, they didn't even use all 7 of them. They only used 5 of the notes, really. So because of those notes that they chose to use making this tune, it gives this tune its very straightforward, kind of simple and very cheerful feeling, because that's the feeling that you get from using the basic notes of the major scale. If they threw in some notes from some other kinds of scales, they could get a sad kind of a sound or a funky kind of a sound. It depends on what kind of scale you use. So right now we used a major scale. You hear people talk about songs being in major keys or minor keys. That's based on what kind of scale you choose your notes from for the song. And we'll talk about minor scale sometime too, but right now we're just looking at the major scale. We talked about scales and scale tones. So when you listen to music, try and see if you can hear, listen to it and see if you can hear which one of those notes is the key note. Can I feel, do I feel which note is the foundation? Usually it'll be the last note in a tune. And that note will come up in other places in the tune also, but it'll usually end there, and you can tell that's the foundation, that's the key note. And then you can try and hear, if you think about that scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. See if you can hear where those other notes come in. Okay, so that melody is starting on a 2, then going up to a 3, then 4, then back to 2, then 1. Start to see if you can hear that in a melody, and that'll be your first step toward understanding how melodies are formed and then how harmonies are formed. And that's what we'll get into next time a little bit. We'll talk about chords and the intervals that make chords. That'll be in the next video. See you soon.